What's up? What's up? It is Raphael with NBA Draft Junkies, and I have a guest today. This is the latest in the series of interviews that I've been doing, to where I have different guests come on the show and discuss their mock draft for their big board. And in this case, today we're going to do a big board. And my guest today is Natan Johnson-Potter. He's been, I guess, following my YouTube channel for a little while. I don't know how long, but he's been commenting on a lot of the posts that I've made and has great insight. So I'm glad to actually have him on as a guest. I mean, I haven't met him, but it's kind of good to put a face with a name, because, you know, on YouTube, you just don't, you just have a graphic or avatar or whatever. So Natan, what's going on, man?
Not much, just chilling. Yeah. You might see me just on any random video because I'm pretty prolific on there. So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, so let's get right into it. So who is the number one player on your big board?
I got Killian Hayes right now. I'd say for me, I put Killian Hayes at the top. It sort of changed maybe in the last couple of weeks, but it was between Okongwu and Killian Hayes. But for me, I feel like the big reason why I put him at the top is just his ability to like lead an offense and just initiate. I think he has a ton of scoring potential if he can get his shooting right, as far as like especially catch and shoot. But I think he's just sort of that kind of guy that you could plug in and just have him lead your offense right away. Now, I don't think he's probably going to go number one, because I don't think he really fits well with the Timberwolves. But like a team sort of, I guess the Bulls would be a decent fit. It'd be kind of maybe a little bit of a conflict with Zach LaVine there, but he would definitely help the playmaking area, because Zach LaVine's definitely score first. I feel like Killian Hayes definitely could be that distributor that they need.
Yeah.
Definitely to a degree better than like someone like Chris Dunn, who's more of a defensive specialist. I would say Pistons are another good fit. I think he could definitely fall that far too. But I guess this top of this draft is pretty volatile, because I don't know, a lot of these players have some weird fits with some of these teams, or I don't know, some teams might think higher or lower than that.
Yeah. Also, just because I think a lot of the players are kind of redundant to players that they already have on the roster and what they've already drafted. So you can say with Chicago, you know, if you take Killian or even LaMelo, yes, they would bring in some balance, some playmaking to their scores at guard. But, you know, which one do you bring off the bench? Do you say Kobe White, you know, you're not going to start anymore because we're going to bring in a point guard? And, you know, I've mentioned plenty of times on this podcast, I'm a big Kobe White fan. And I thought that the second half of the year, he was, even though it was short, but like the few games after All-Star break, he was phenomenal. He's averaging like 26 a game. And so, you know, bringing in another guard creates competition, which competition is good. But, you know, your top five or, you know, pick may not start, because can he beat Kobe and Zach LaVine out in an open competition? Same thing with Atlanta. I mean, whoever they draft to me is going to be redundant.
Yeah, definitely with Atlanta. I feel like for me, it's a lot kind of weird that I've been seeing like mocks where they have like point guards going to Atlanta or like shooting guards going to Atlanta. I feel like, I don't know, it might be best for that, like score, like ball handling shooting guards. I mean, but I feel like it would be really good for them to get like a wing or like a potential big who could play next to like John Collins in the foreseeable future, even though Clint Capella's there.
And he's young. Capella's young. So, yeah. So even like with Minnesota, with number one, unless it's I guess Edwards could be a decent fit there. I mean, depending on this whole situation with Malik Beasley.
Yeah.
I think that, and then they just drafted. What's that?
I think personally for me, he's the best fit. Edwards is for them right now,
but it's still redundant because they had Culver and Beasley.
Right.
If you draft a 5, then, you know, it's kind of redundant with Cat. So it's it's going to be interesting on draft night. So back to Killian, what is your thought process and what is your reasons why you have Killian as the number one point guard in this draft? Not only player, but point guard in this draft. You know, that's not the consensus.
Right. I think for me, the reason I have him at number one is because, like, you look at someone like LaMelo Ball, he's got the passing. Like, that's the really huge thing for him. But I really do not like his shot at all. I think his shot selection's bad. His form is kind of not great. Definitely needs to be cleaned up a little bit. But with Killian Hayes, I think he really has the foundation there, and with his shooting, and to be honest, his passing is honestly not that far off.
Right.
So that sort of also puts him over the top. The other element is I think he's definitely better defensively, the very least with effort, compared to someone like LaMelo. He's not like a Tyrese Maxey or like a Tyrese Halliburton where you could just plug them in. I'd say they do pretty well right now in the NBA as a defender, but I feel like he has more upside than both of them on the offensive end.
Yeah, I agree. I'm high on Killian. You and Kevin O'Connor have him number one. I
saw that.
I have him as my number one point guard on my big board. All right, so let's move to number two. So you have Onyeka Okongwu as number two on your big board, which is a little different.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen him this high. I think he arguably could be the safest pick in the draft.
I definitely agree with that point. I think the reason he is so high for me is I feel like he can already do a lot of what you need out of your center, or even if you're at your power forward if you want. But he can sort of just be plugged in and play very good defense, play with great effort, rebound, finish at a really high level. I think he definitely has some room to become a better passer and a little bit of a shooter from mid-range, maybe 3-point, but I think sort of like Bam Adebayo, he's been compared to a lot. It might take him a few years to extend that range out and maybe get that ball handling sort of, I guess, to the level he wants it to. But I think at the very least, you're already getting someone who's going to protect the rim, going to be able to switch, going to be able to rebound. For the modern NBA, he's sort of just a perfect big man, and
yeah, and I want to see him in space. I feel like we didn't get a chance to really see him in space because USC played two bigs. Yep. So
weird.
Yeah, I think that we didn't really get a chance to see his full skill package because I think that he could be a awesome pick and roll threat, vertical lob threat, rim roller, and like I said, we just didn't get a chance to see that. So, what do you think? What teams do you think would be good fits for Okongwu?
I would say the Warriors would be a decent fit, although could be a little redundant with Draymond, but they still need a center. I mean, the Warriors are my team, and I don't know, I've been sort of flipping between him and maybe Deni Avdija and Wiseman, but I think they're probably going to go Wiseman or trade the pick. But I really like Okongwu. He's been in my top 5 since I'd say March. It's been, I think the Warriors would be a good fit. I think potentially he could be a decent fit in Minnesota if they decide that they want to play Karl Anthony Towns more at the power forward.
Right.
But I don't know if he like that. I feel like there were reports at some point where he's like, nah, I'm a center. I don't want to play power forward.
Which is weird because you got to think years ago, it's the opposite. Guys that were 4s.
Right. Yeah.
They would be mad at playing the 5. I mean, that was Chris Webber's whole beef with Don Nelson with the Warriors. So the game has definitely changed. I think Charlotte for Okongwu is the best fit.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think Golden State makes sense. I think Golden State is probably going to go with Wiseman because they can probably package him
Right.
They probably come up with a better package. I mean, I saw one that I thought was pretty interesting. It was like Wiseman, Wiggins, and next year's number 1 for Bradley Beal.
Yeah. I've also seen him mocked to the Wizards too, just like at 9.
Oh wow.
I feel like that's a pretty good fit too.
Yep.
I don't know if he falls that far, but that would be a good fit.
Yep. All right, number 3. Who is the number 3 player on your big board?
I had Anthony Edwards. He sort of fluctuated between 1 and 3 with me. But I think the main thing for him is that he really flashes that like ability to score and take over. And he's super athletic, very young, very strong. Like he's a big guy. So I feel like those are his main strengths. I think he could definitely be a better passer, although that's not really what you're asking him to do. And his shot selection and sort of focus on the defensive end definitely needs some work. But I think any team that's sort of looking for someone to play one of the wing spots and just score the ball, they would love to have him.
Yeah, and I think as far as the passing, I do think you need him to do that, because if he's going to be a ball dominant player, if he's going to be like your go-to scorer in today's NBA, you have to be able to make other players better. So if you're, I mean, you think of like James Harden. Like if you double James Harden, he's going to make you pay. Same with LeBron. Right. Even like Bill, who averaged about 30 points a game this year, he improved a lot as a passer. I think it would be tough to be a go-to player in today's NBA if you can't pass the ball or make players better, because in reality, I think if he doesn't end up being like a really good passer or playmaker, then it's going to impact his scoring, and then he'll end up being somewhat of a guy that probably puts up big points on a bad team. Or even shoot, you can even fall down to like a 6-man if that's the only thing you do well is score the ball and you don't pass well. So it's
I think,
very important.
I was watching some video recently that mentioned that he had the same coach as like Dwayne Wade and Victor Oladipo.
Yep.
And there was some tweet or Instagram post where Dwayne Wade was like, "Don't disrespect this man," and like Vito came in and responded and was like, "Yeah, he has that connection with the coach." I think he has a chance to be like a Victor Oladipo type if he like really buys in on defense. Like if, for example, if somehow he fell to the Warriors or something and they were like, what we want you to do is like come off the bench, be that 6-man and score with the second unit and play a solid defense. If they like, you can unlock that defensive side of his game, then he definitely has good potential there. He could be sort of like a Victor Oladipo type.
And the issue with Oladipo is, remember early in his career, they tried to turn him into a point guard. Orlando was playing him at the 1. And he, like to me, he didn't really hit his stride until he got to Oklahoma City. And he even said that being with Russ taught him how to like work on his game as far as like work. He thought he worked hard, but once he was around Westbrook, and then, he went to Indiana, became a much different player. But even then, he even says that he took the game more serious in his off seasons as far as like working on his body and all of that. And, but I think in Oladipo, I could be wrong, but I think in Oladipo's case, it took for him being moved twice. Was he the number 2 pick in his draft?
Yeah.
So he was moved twice before, he played like 5 years in the league. So I think that was kind of his wake-up call in a sense. So, all right, let's go to number 4. Who is number 4 on your big board?
I have Deni Avdija. Deni has been probably one of my favorite players in the draft. What I really like about him is that he's versatile. He can sort of do a little bit of everything. Can run the offense a little bit, can shoot it a little bit, although probably needs a little work there. He's a very good defender, very smart defender, good passer. Yeah, sort of just does a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I think he's the ultimate. I don't know the best word. I don't want to say glue guy because I think he's better than a glue guy, but he's what I call. He would be my, I guess, role player glue guy all-star. And so to me, the
Yeah,
epitome of that particular role or position is Draymond. Draymond
right.
is that connective tissue that makes everything flow, makes everything better. And
Yeah, he's sort of like a wing version of Draymond, I guess.
yeah, just a Swiss Army knife that just does everything you need for your team to do to win. Just the plays that, that a lot of people may not, it may not stand out as a highlight. Like, for example, to me, what made me really big on Draymond was it the first year that Golden State won the title and they were trapping Steph. And once they get the ball in Draymond's hand in the middle of the floor, he was able to make plays for others. So whether
Yeah,
it was him knocking down a three or making a play on the move, they run the pick and roll. He catches the ball in the middle of the floor, and he could either throw the lob to Bogut or kick it to the corners to Clay or Harrison Barnes. He was just making these plays as a playmaker that you don't normally see out of a 4 and a 5. And then I look at a team like Houston, whenever they would give the balls to their 4 and their 5s, they couldn't make a play for others. They only could
yeah,
shoot it. It's either like if you throw it to PJ Tucker, bam, he has to catch it and shoot it, or he's going to swing it back to Harden or, Chris Paul or Westbrook, whoever was the other ball handler. Same with Capella. Like, you had to throw him a lob. He wasn't going to put the ball on the
right.
floor and
Definitely.
react or do anything like that. So I think you need guys like that. And then I also feel like if Deni's long-term best position as a 4, and you look at like past championship teams, whether it was Golden State with Draymond, whether it was the Lakers with Odom, or the Bulls
Or
with
like
Kukoc,
Siakam.
or Siakam,
Siakam.
they had like this 4-man that could rebound and push. That if you gave him the ball in the middle of the floor, he could knock down a shot, throw a lob pass, or just make a play for others. And so I think a guy like Deni is going to be very important for a team that's looking to win. Now, if you put him in a really bad team, then I don't know if he looks as
Yeah,
good because I have a saying, like, there's guys that can play basketball and there's guys that can hoop. So I think, like, if you're
right.
on a bad team, you can look good if you can hoop. But if you're in a really bad team and you can play basketball and you're looking to play with structure, and sometimes I don't think you end up looking best because you're not isolating and going for yours and getting your buckets. But I think Deni's a guy that he's like Draymond in a sense, just being that elite connective tissue that does a little bit of everything that can make his teammates better and impacts the game in the wins and loss column as opposed to just stats.
Yeah, I feel like out of like the teams in the top 5, it's like, although he's sort of my favorite, and I kind of want him to go to the Warriors. I feel like the Warriors would be a good fit, just to fit into a system. I think he'd be pretty good at doing that.
Yeah,
I think
because I think
potentially, yeah,
he's a good cutter, which the ball moves with the Warriors. Then you may even have a lineup where you have 5 guys on the floor that can dribble the ball, push.
yeah.
I don't think Wiggins is much of a playmaker, but you just
Neither is Clay really, but
yeah, but you have 5 guys that you can possibly put the ball in their hands and they can put the ball on the floor in a
and
sense.
like 3 of them can like go get you a bucket.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
everybody, and then you have Deni. I think in the closing lineup with Deni and Draymond at the 4 and the 5, you have 2 guys that can pass the ball that are fine cutters, and then I think Deni is good off the ball cutter, and yeah, I think they'd just be tough to defend in space. So I would like to see that pick. To be honest with you,
I think
I don't know
I
if it's
think the
real,
other
and there's so much smoke screen going on with Golden State right now. It seems like
yeah,
every
like
single
a few months
player.
ago they were like, we're all in on Deni, and then they're like, I don't know, maybe it's like I don't know, smoke
Yeah,
screens.
I've seen they love Wiseman. I've seen they're gonna take Edwards. I've seen they love LaMelo too. So who knows? It's all smokescreen.
I
All right.
think the other two teams in the top 5 that he could potentially fit on, or maybe let's put it top 6. I'd say the Hawks, the Bulls, and maybe the Timberwolves. But the thing with all of those teams is that they're all sort of young, and with the Bulls especially, they have like a new coaching staff, and I don't think I think it might be difficult for him in one of those situations because none of those teams really have like an offensive identity,
Mm-hmm.
and he couldn't just like plug in and be like, I'm gonna play this role for you, and these other people will be doing this, this, and this. Where it's, I guess at the moment, it's more like for the Timberwolves, it's just like let D'Angelo and Cat just do whatever, and then for the Bulls, it's just like let Zach LaVine go score, and with the Hawks, I think would be a little bit better of a situation for him, but it's still a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing at the 2. I think Kevin Huerter's cool, but like,
But they still have
I don't know.
Hunter. They still
Yeah,
have Reddish on the wings.
they have like so many wings that would be like a little bit too congested for Avdija to fit there.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
let's move on to number 5. You have LaMelo Ball at number 5. I think some people are going to be upset with this because a large majority of people have him number 1, maybe 2, 3 at the lowest. But
yeah.
you're a little down on him. Not saying it in a negative way. You just have him at number 5 as opposed to
Yeah,
a top 3 pick. So what is your thoughts on LaMelo?
I think for me, it's like it's not exactly where they're gonna go, but it's like I like those 4 players previously a little more than him, largely because LaMelo. The thing with him is that he's like kind of crazy inefficient. He sort of tries to do too much. I feel like, although I feel like he can be that guy who's like amazing superstar. Probably has one of the highest ceilings in the draft, but I feel like there's a chance that he sort of just kind of maybe fizzles out a little bit. Isn't quite the shooter that anyone expects him to be because he sort of takes these crazy like shots like 5 feet behind the 3-point line, just like doing, I don't know. I sort of wonder if he can really settle down and like be someone who will fit within a system or like someone who will let his shot come to him instead of sort of aggressively trying to take it. Um, the other thing I think with him is that he could potentially maybe bulk up a little bit, and that would help him with finishing at the basket. Um, but really, with him, the main thing is just he's one of the best passers we've had in the draft in a while.
Yeah.
I think his vision, his creativity, he could really open up a team's offense, maybe like a Charlotte Hornets or like a Knicks, even a Pistons. I feel like those are all good places where he would definitely fit. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's the biggest story of the draft, as opposed to who's going number 1, is where does LaMelo fall? And when I say fall, I'm not saying like fall like he's gonna like his stock is dropping. I mean more so of like, does he end up in New York? Does New York trade up? Does Detroit trade up? Does Charlotte take him at number 3 if he's available, even though they have Graham and Rozier, who they just paid? Does Minnesota? I mean, I just saw yesterday that Minnesota's going to take him number 1. So how does that fit with Russell? Do you just go all in on offense and just say forget defense?
right.
Do they play off the ball? Would Minnesota take him number 1 simply because the team is for sale and they know that he is the most box office player in this draft immediately? I mean, there's so many questions. So that's what I'm, most looking forward to on draft day is what situation or what team ends up drafting LaMelo, and is it going to be via trade? I mean, like I said, I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it.
I feel like he could potentially even be like someone that one of the teams in the top, like Golden State or like Minnesota, if one of them drafts LaMelo with the plan of maybe playing him for the first season and then like trading him somewhere else later on for a bigger package, like that would be something that I could see happening.
Could
Sort
be.
of, I guess, sort of like Lonzo, but like
Yeah.
a little more because they're like projecting his upside to be better instead of feeling like Lonzo sort of failed, even though I think he's still really solid
Yeah, I mean,
NBA
he's
player.
solid. I just don't think he was worthy of the number 2 pick. All right, so let's move on down to another player that you have a little bit lower on your big board than where he's projected to go in the draft, and that's James Wiseman. So why is Wiseman number 6 on your list?
I'd say the reason Wiseman drops down to number 6 for me is because he just sort of has that small sample size. I think he's definitely like more talented or has like more raw like potential than someone like Okongwu just because of his like physicality and size and athleticism. But I think the thing with him and a few of the other bigs is that I feel like Wiseman doesn't quite have all the finer points yet, whereas someone like Okongwu could like really step out and show what he could do year one. I feel like it might take a year or two for Wiseman to like really hit his stride and become the sort of player that he looks like he could be. I think that the whole math thing with the NCAA was the biggest thing that sort of dropped my stock with him, just because you didn't get to see him play against other good talent. He sort of just dominated all of Memphis's early games, like 3 blocks a game, like 20 points. That's kind of crazy. But I think he could definitely have that sort of potential, sort of like a Joel Embiid a little bit. I see, maybe not quite as big, but like guy who could bang in the post a little bit, could extend his jumper out, and definitely be really good rim protector. But I think he just needs a little more, I guess, seasoning.
Yeah. I mean, I only played 3 games, and it's going to be probably a full year or close to it between his last game and his first NBA game. I think my biggest concern with him is how does he want to play? Like if he wants to settle for too many jump shots, then I think it kind of limits his impact. So, all right, I'll give you an example. I think DeAndre Ayton is going to be an absolute stud, but I feel like he settles for too many jump shots. He doesn't get to the free throw line. And even though on paper it's hard to talk down against his numbers and say that he's not having an impact because, again, like I said, it's hard to argue with his stats. But I think he could be that much more dominant if he banged in the post and played more inside than out and did things like get to the free throw line more, draw more fouls, which can put his team in the bonus earlier, which, gives his teammates easier scoring opportunities because they're going to the free throw line more simply because of his aggression. And so I don't know if Wiseman is as gifted in the post as Ayton is, or if he's like a guy that you can just kind of throw the ball to on the low block and get a bucket. I think that if you feed him in the post, he's gonna face up and shoot a jumper more so than take advantage of his size. And if he ends up being like a dominant rim runner or a roller, I think that would be good for him. But I would like to see him have a little bit of both. I think he does have the skill set to where he can post up if you need him to. He can be a lob threat or, a rim runner, but also knock down open shots. But I don't want to see a lot of possessions where he's getting the ball facing up. And I think Sports Illustrated kind of said it best. There's times where he wants to play like LaMarcus Aldridge. I don't think that he has Aldridge's natural shooting touch, But then again, on one hand, you can say, well, okay, if he does want to play like Aldridge, he'll extend his career. LaMarcus is like 35. He's still very productive, and he might have 4 or 5 years left in his game because he doesn't have all the banging and punishment because he shot a lot of jumpers. So
I think
it's
the other thing
crazy.
is he could be sort of like a Hassan Whiteside. I feel like his like absolute like maximum ceiling is someone like Embiid, but like I don't know. Right now, I feel like he could have a similar impact as someone like Hassan Whiteside, where you'll see them like put up like 15 to 20 points and like 11 to 12 rebounds and maybe like 2 or 3 blocks a game. 3 might be putting it a little high, but he could just be someone who blocks shots, gets rebounds, and finishes. Although they won't be like exactly as impactful,
right,
on the defensive end or offensive end as it seems like they're being. But
I'm a Blazers fan,
sort of like
so I
yeah,
know all about
like Hassan Whiteside with a jump shot. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe. All right, so moving down to the next pick. Now, this is the highest I've seen this player. I'm not mad at it. I like him a lot. But you have Saddiq Bey at, where are we at, number 7?
7, yeah. For me, what it is with Saddiq Bey is that he's someone I feel like you could put on literally any team,
Plug and
he
play.
could just play for you right now. Sort of like other Villanova guys, like an Eric Paschall. Like I think he's pretty similar to Paschall. The difference is that I think he's much better defensively, like way better defensively. And
I think he's more skilled. I mean, you can run him as
he's more of a perimeter player.
Yep, he can be your ball handler if you need. I mean, he was playing point forward a lot. Better shooter for sure.
Right. I feel like whatever you need, like whether it's you need shooting, you need defense, you need playmaking from your wing or your forwards, you could just put him in, and you can ask him to do it, and he'll do it at a pretty decent rate. I really like his shooting because he's so long and his form's just really clean. He can pretty much shoot it over anyone. Very good catch and shoot threat, and I think he's probably one of the better defenders in the draft. I would say like top 3 is probably like him, Devin Vassell, and like Isaac Okoro, like perimeter defenders. I would say like those are the top guys. And similar to Okoro, I think he could also be a pretty good defender inside against like 4s and potentially small ball 5s.
Yeah, I'm a Blazers fan, like I mentioned. And this whole draft process, I've been saying I need Saddiq Bey to fall to the Blazers. And based off of your list, he has no chance of ending up in Portland because I don't even think the Blazers have a trade package that they could, come up with that can move them this high in the draft. Unless they give up CJ, which I don't want, them to give up CJ. So, I'm kind of disappointed that other people are starting to jump on the Saddiq Bey bandwagon. And even though it's not the NBA teams, I really want to see him in Portland. But I think that he can help a lot of teams. Like, for example, it may not be the best fit as far as like coming in and starting from day one, but I think Atlanta needs someone like Saddiq Bey. Now, if they can get rid of one of the younger players that they have on their team, what's that?
I feel like he's sort of like what if you took Hunter and Reddish and like sort of melded them together.
Yeah.
And was like, you'll be better at shooting.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that he fits there just because of what they need, especially if they're trying to come in and get better and make a push for the playoffs next year. But I doubt if it happens simply because, one, I don't think he'll go at number 6 where they're picking. And then I think they're going to stick with John Collins and Capella. They're going to see if that works out. And then, of course, Reddish and Hunter. All right, so moving down to, I guess we're at number 8. So if your big board goes according to the draft, you'd have Obi Toppin at number 8, which goes to the Knicks, which is something that I've predicted on my first mock draft. And, it wasn't popular, but I think it happens. I definitely think it happens simply because, like I said, the whole CAA connection. If I'm not mistaken, Leon Rose was his main recruiter as far as recruiting him out of Dayton to sign with CAA, and now he's in charge of the Knicks. So I think there's a strong possibility there. But what are your thoughts on Toppin? Simply because I've seen him as high as number 1, and not on like a mock draft that I've seen online, but one of my previous guests had him number 1. And then I've seen some people have him like outside of the lottery. So you're like in the middle on your assessment of Toppin. So I feel like I want to hear your thoughts on Obi.
I feel like I definitely see both sides. I think a lot of the people who would be dropping him out of the lottery are like, his defense is bad. That's the biggest red flag. But at the same time, I remember watching that start of that video that you had with that guy on, and he had Obi Toppin number 1. I think the main reason that he's so high is because he has a ton of offensive talent and potential to even be better than he already is, especially with his 3-point shooting. I feel like with Toppin, you're getting like an incredible athlete. He's going to finish. He's going to run in transition. He has pretty decent touch. He can shoot. He can handle the ball a little bit. And this past season, he's shown to be a pretty decent passer too.
Yeah.
I think he has a ton of offensive potential. It's just the defense is kind of concerning because I don't think he'll be able to like defend 4s exactly, maybe not even 5s, but he could try to be more of a wing, more of a 3, but I feel like that would be a little bit of an awkward fit. So it's really just the defense. I think he has like potential for being an all-star just because of his pure offensive production, but he could even be one of those guys that if they land in the right situation, he could be like rookie of the year if he puts up like 17 points and like 8 rebounds, 3 assists, something like that. But I feel like for him, he could always also just end up being like a 6-man type where you'll have him off the bench just to score a little bit, and then he'll go away in crunch time minutes because he can't play defense.
Yeah, I definitely think that he's my early favorite for rookie of the year, even though I don't even know what team he's going to, just because he's the most ready on the offensive end in this draft class. And I think that no matter, like if he goes to New York, if they get him a point guard, then I think that he's just going to be able to put up big numbers there. If he goes to, I don't know, let's say Detroit and they're able to move Blake Griffin, then I could see him going there and putting up big numbers. Washington, I think that would be an interesting fit if he falls to Washington at 9, or even let's say he falls to Phoenix at 10. I don't think it would be the best fit, but if they're running and scoring a lot of points, and I think he would add some excitement.
Yeah.
So I definitely see him as a. Go ahead.
The thing that's good about him on the offensive end is that you don't have to worry about him being able to shoot. Like if you put him next to whatever kind of center, like if you put him next to Ayton or like Mitchell Robinson, you don't have to worry about them like clogging up the lane on offense, I would say.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I think that he's a late bloomer. And so I know like some people are holding his age against him because he redshirted, and I think he was also I think he went to like a prep school. So he's a lot older for a sophomore. But I think, he's a late bloomer, and late bloomers are guys that I always have an interest in because, I mean, they probably have a stronger work ethic simply because they started off so late and they're trying to play catch up to guys that have been playing for a while or just, way more talented than them in the beginning. So, like I said, I like him a lot. I think that his shooting is going to really improve. Like, he was already a good shooter, but I think that he's going to come in as a rookie and be even better shooter than he showed when he was in college.
Right. I think the thing with him too is like he was like what 6'2" or 6'3" coming out of high school. He was like a point guard. I feel like that's something that will often get lost when someone's like putting him out of like ranking him out of the lottery. I think they're not thinking about the fact that like he sort of has a guard skill foundation, and he just like 1 or 2 years ago was like switched to the power forward.
Now, I want to see footage of that because
Yeah.
I mean, I've read the articles and I've read that, he was a point, but man, I can't imagine seeing a point that moves that bad laterally. like, like he must have just been get him a screen straight line drive to the rim. I don't see shiftiness. I don't see fluidity. And that's one of the things that if you're a guard, you have to be able to move laterally and have some type of shiftiness. And I just see him as like a straight up vertical athlete. And
I wonder like how he just like randomly sort of ended up at Dayton. If you like look at him in pictures in high school, he's like very small.
Yeah.
Like he looks like he like doubled in size since he was in high school.
Yeah, he's definitely he gotten bigger, stronger, and his athleticism is off the charts. All right, so let's move on down to a guy that you mentioned earlier, Devin Vassell. You have Devin Vassell at number 9 on your big board. And is this pre-video Devin Vassell behind the head shot, or is this
It's sort of both. I feel like I wasn't in love with his shooting in the first place. I thought he was just like a solid shooter. But for me, his calling card is really his defense and ability to like run in transition, and his athleticism and defense and length. That's the big thing for me. And I think his shooting, where it was in college, I feel like it was already in a pretty good place. And whatever team he goes to, he's like sort of like a plug and play, similar to Saddiq Bey. But I feel like whatever team he goes to, they're gonna work on him with his shooting, whether or not he has that weird behind the head form, whether or not he was messing around, I don't know. But I feel like even before that, he wasn't exactly like as much of a knockdown shooter as someone like Saddiq Bey or like Toppin or whatever. So,
well, the numbers say he was.
right.
The numbers say he was over 40%.
How many threes was he taking?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head. For him, I was just more so concerned with his lack of free throw attempts. And I think the biggest thing for him is for him to get stronger. And, can he put on weight? Does his frame allow him to get stronger? Because if he's going to be if his calling card is going to be defense, then, like I said, he'll definitely need to get stronger, because I could see if like you're really skinny on the offensive end and you're super, super skilled, you can get away with it. But if your calling card is defense and you're supposed to defend the team's best wing player, your LeBron James is your James Hardens. These guys are strong. Luka, they're just going to back you down and kind of take you to the post. So you may end up having to be, I guess a great off the ball defender. So yeah, that's my biggest issue with him.
He's a really good off-ball defender, though.
Yeah, I mean he definitely is. He definitely is a good off-ball defender. But yeah, I just wonder like if can he defend? Can he be your main guy if he doesn't get stronger? And then I also feel like his upside is high. I think if he works on his ball handling and a little bit of his offensive creativity, then he'll be able to attack the basket more. And if he's able to attack the basket more, it just kind of opens everything up, because right now when he puts the ball on the floor, I feel like, it's 2 dribble, pull up. If he's driving to his left, he's going to drive left, stop, spin, turn around, pull up. So I would like to see him add more. What's that?
He's also not quite like someone his offensive game is sort of raw, I guess. And he doesn't take a lot of shots.
Yeah.
He took like like 10 shots a game, a little less than 10 shots a game, and 3 of them were threes, whereas like someone like Saddiq Bey has taken like closer to 12, and 5, almost 6 of them were from 3. I feel like if he like he shows that he's pretty efficient from 3, if he can, I guess, have a little more confidence in that area and just like maybe take 4 threes a game, that would out the gate, that would be pretty good for him, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more so related to him going to Florida State, where they play like, it seems like 15-man rotation. Nobody plays a ton of minutes.
And so they're all like good defenders.
Yeah.
Playing the wing spot, and sort of weird. Like
a
guy at Florida State that I like, that's like not even on anyone's draft board, is like someone like Trent Forrest.
Yep.
I feel like he's sort of like a Marcus Smart type kind of. But yeah.
Yeah, I think he sneaks his way in. Maybe not drafted, but I think he sneaks his way in the league. I think he goes to the G League, and because he has a role. You know, maybe people don't see his upside as much, but there is a place for him in the G League where they can develop, and if he can just kind of work on adding some stuff to his game, and like I said, I think he makes it eventually. All right, moving down to number 10, you have Kyra Lewis.
Yeah. I feel like where he is in the draft is sort of an unknown, because I feel like the place he could really fit would be like Detroit. Even the Knicks would be a pretty decent fit because they really need a point guard. Or you could end up with like Phoenix, or like even maybe New Orleans.
I've even seen him as low as Miami at 20.
Yeah, I don't know if he goes any lower than
Orlando.
Yep. But he has a chance to, if they like someone else, if they wanted to. That's a possibility. I think the thing with him is he's sort of like a jack of all trades, sort of does everything well, but his calling card is just that he's so fast. Like, that's something I think teams will definitely like, and it might surprise some people if he goes even like top 6. Like, there's a chance he could go to Chicago if they really want him. But I think I think it's the speed and the ability to just play good defense, can shoot, can pass, can sort of just do everything. Pretty good finishing touch. But other thing too, he's still like 19. He's
pretty young.
He's a sophomore. So.
Yep, he's pretty young. I think he's younger, like at least a year younger than Cassius Stanley.
Yeah, and he's like, he's younger than like Devin Vassell, all those guys. But I think for him, I feel like he could be sort of like an Ish Smith if Ish Smith could shoot, or like, I don't know, what comp did I have on it?
I mean, I guess like
I had like Dennis Schroeder. I think that would be pretty good comp too, because I feel like he can sort of do a little bit of everything, and whatever team he's on, he'll be able to do his thing, I think.
That's one I never thought of. I mean, I've seen the De'Aaron Fox comparisons. I don't think he's Fox. I think he's like a little level under Fox, but
I think Fox is more bouncy. He's longer.
Yep. Yeah, and I've seen, like I mentioned, his range anywhere from 8 to 20. And I don't know where he falls. I think like Phoenix would be a good fit. And I think that you can kind of groom him for at least a year under Rubio. I think New Orleans could be a good fit depending on what they do with Drew Holiday, and Lonzo. Yeah, we've seen the rumors about both of them not being there. I think that Orlando, depending on what they do with Fultz, could be a good fit. So I'm curious to see where he ends up going. And the lowest I've seen is Miami. And I think that would be a pretty good fit simply because if Dragic is gone, he can come in and play a similar role, not necessarily the shooter, but Dragic was such an aggressive driver, and he got to the rack when he wanted to. And so if Lewis can have a similar type role, I mean, he's definitely not going to be as physical as Goran, because Goran is just going to, he has a first step, but he's just going to bully his way through there. Lewis is just kind of blow by you, and, you know, like speed kills. And so he would definitely be a pretty good replacement, in my opinion. And then, of course, they save money, which puts them in a good position for 2021 when, you know, they're rumored to go after Giannis or maybe Oladipo or whoever. But I think, you know, Giannis is their main target. All right, let's move on down to number 11.
I got Aaron Nesmith. I don't know how he does it exactly, but I think
Sniper.
the thing with him is just, he's a sniper, and he'll whatever team that wants shooting, he could go high. He could, if the Knicks, they're like, you know what, we want shooting, I feel like he could go that high, or he could drop down to like Portland or like maybe Brooklyn even. Any team that wants shooting and they don't really have too many other concerns at the moment, I think they'll take him. I think to a degree he's sort of like a Klay Thompson, where he'll shoot. He's really the best as just catch and shoot. Find him in the corner, find him on the wing, and just let him shoot. He's got great range, but I think he's also a pretty sneaky good defender. He'll be able to hold his own, and he has a pretty strong build.
Yep.
I think that's an underrated part of his game. He'll be able to, I think, defend right away, and I don't think he'll get bodied too often.
Yeah, the thing I like most about him is obviously his shooting, but it's how he can score. There aren't a lot of guys that can score the way he does off movement. He's not just a catch and shoot guy. Like, you can run off the ball action plays. You can put him under the net and have him sprint out. And I mean, think if you're a defender, you don't want to guard someone that you have to chase all across the floor, get hit by screens, and all he needs is just a slither of space, and he's going to get it out. And we've seen how much of an impact Duncan Robinson had on Miami's offense by playing a similar role. So I wouldn't be shocked to see. What's that?
Maybe even like twice as good as Duncan Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see him go high. I don't know if for example, let's say the Knicks already know they have a deal for, let's say, Chris Paul or Fred VanVleet, then he makes sense there. So if you end up with Chris Paul or VanVleet with Nesmith and RJ Barrett, then you've just made RJ Barrett's life a whole lot easier, because you've given him a point guard, you've given him floor space and the stuff that he didn't have last year. Same with Mitchell Robinson. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be too shocked to see that, even though I think that the Knicks are going to go in a different direction. But to me, that would make some sense. But they'd have to know that they have a point guard.
I think another decent fit would either be like the Spurs or the Kings too. If they can move on from Buddy Hield, I think the Spurs definitely could use some shooting from the wing, from the guard spots, and I think he could very easily just plug and play, because he had that sort of pro style system with Stackhouse at Vanderbilt, and I think the Spurs would like that.
Even New Orleans. I mean, you give them another shooter, you loosen up the floor for Zion, and you'd have Brandon Ingram shot a good percentage from three, so I think that could make some sense. All right, so let's go on down to, we're at number, is it 12?
Yeah.
Number 12. All right, Tyrese Maxey. I just dropped the Tyrese Maxey video last night, and I see Maxey's stock kind of on the rise. Like, it was high coming into the season. I think it dropped during the season, and then now it's starting to creep back up. I think a lot of it has to do with the success of a couple of the Kentucky guys in the playoffs. And then, being with Clutch and having a pro day air live on TV definitely doesn't hurt your stock either. especially if you do well. So what are your thoughts on Tyrese Maxey?
I think the thing that we know he can like for sure do well immediately is play defense. I think he could sort of like a Drew Holiday-ish. You could just put him in and at the 1 or the 2, and he'll guard the other team's lead ball handler. And I think since he was sort of playing like a wing, sort of playing a small forward, because
They had
Kentucky
3
had
other
like Hagan
guys.
quickly.
Yeah.
They had 3 guys who were like kind of lead ball handlers. They were all really good defenders too.
Yeah.
I feel like there's definitely a lot more potential with his offensive game, like off the dribble. I think he could be a good scorer in that area. I think he has his shooting for him looks fine, but I don't think he's going to be some like amazing shooter, maybe like 34, 35% on average. I feel like he could also be a decent playmaker, but I think the main thing for him is just like his energy, his defense. He's pretty strong for his size. He's like he's probably one of the heavier guards out there that's like not over 6'5". So
Yeah, I mean he's strong. He's a good finisher. That's my favorite part of his game is just the creative finishing around the rim. He has amazing touch. I mean, just from floaters off the glass, inside hand finishes, scoop shots, just really creative around the rim. And he's aggressive and he likes to get downhill. And but he also plays off the ball too. So he's not one of these guys, if you have him off the ball, he just kind of stands around. He's active, he moves. And he's a competent passer. I don't think he's a great passer, but he knows how to make the right reads, especially when he gets downhill. I think his his shooting is going to be the biggest question mark. I don't think it's a major concern, I should say, because he has the touch and he was a great free throw shooter. I think he's a better shooter than the numbers indicate, but it's just a matter of being able to do it on the floor. I think his shot release is a little low, and I know he's been working on that, getting it above his eyebrows, I think is what he said. And so, like I think just because he kind of had a low release and the length of college defenders he may have had to rush his shots a little more than he had to in high school. But yeah, if he can get his release above his eyebrows and just become a more consistent shooter, then his game is really going to open up. But I like the Drew Holiday comparison. I have a friend that's an agent, and he said that, if he was representing Maxey, that would be like his player who he want him to study film on and watch and just try to, play a similar role. I mean, I saw some people trying to say Lou Williams, but I don't think he's as. I mean, they're both scorers. So on one hand, I can see it because Lou is not really a one, or he's just a guard, a bucket getter. But Tyrese is a much better defender and stronger.
Yeah. I think Tyrese's game sort of lies somewhere between like Colin Sexton and Drew Holiday, that sort of area.
Yeah, that's not a bad comparison.
He'll drive. He's probably a better shooter than he's given credit for, and he'll play good defense.
Yep. All right. Number 13.
Yeah, I have RJ Hampton. The big thing with him is that he's just so athletic, and I feel like he can do a little bit of everything. But in the NBL, he sort of disappeared, I guess, because he was on a good New Zealand Breakers team.
I don't think they were good. I just think they had their guards. Yeah, I just think that their best players played similar positions than him.
Right. I think with him, he could be a 1, he could be a 2, he could be a 3. I feel like it's all up to who drafts him and like how he ends up developing. But I think he has a ton of potential. Right now, I feel like he's still pretty raw, but I like him more than like other more raw prospects like a Jade McDaniels or whatever. But I like him more than that McDaniels just because I feel like he's at this point he's not inefficient. Like he's not trying to do too much. He just needs to be like unlocked. Whereas McDaniels, it's all like he's just taking all the shots and he needs to be toned down.
And turnovers. He turns the ball over a lot. Yeah, man. I think that a lot of people have RJ in this range. You know, the big knock on him is his shooting, which is something I've seen with my own eyes. He's been putting in a lot of work and time on the shot. And so only time will tell if it translates to games. But one of the things I like about him is that he's a competitor and he's a dog. And so it's interesting that you have Maxey ahead of him because they're both guys that are from the Dallas area that I live in. And, you know, a lot of people around here will remember their last game where they went heads up. RJ totally dominated. I want to say he may have had like 39 or something like that. And Maxey may have had like 21 or 24, something like that. It was a situation where you left that game feeling like, okay, RJ's definitely the better player. And so I wonder, like, if he would have went to college, like if he would have went to Kansas, where would his stock be today? Which is something that we'll never know. I have the feeling that going to New Zealand hurt his stock as far as, you know, the public perception, because not a lot of people are able to see him play live. I don't even know if he played 15 games, and then he got
hurt, right?
Yep, he had an injury, but I feel like that experience helped prepare him for his role in the NBA because you know, more than likely he's going to go to a team where he's going to have to early in his career fit around different guys, understand how to play off the ball, and just kind of learn to play in a system. Because when he was in high school, he was always the best player on the floor, bigger, stronger, faster. It's kind of like in football, you know, like you put your best athlete at quarterback in like high school and lower levels, even if he can't throw a lick, but he's such a good athlete, you want to put the ball in his hands every single play. And I feel like RJ played a lot of point in high school and AAU because he, you know, you just wanted to have the ball in his hands all the time. He was the best player. I think that he's a good passer, especially on like skip passes. But I still think that he needs to like kind of develop like the point guard game. I don't know if he has that yet. And then if
he could always just end up being like a 2 or 3 where he can
definitely
be a
secondary ball handler. And I think that's where going to play in the NBL kind of helped him out because he had to be that. He had to play off the ball, cut, and just kind of play in a system instead of just kind of, you know, having the ball every play and doing everything for everybody else. So I think it was a good choice. And then, of course, financially, it just made a lot of sense. Like he made more money.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, you never know what some guys got under the table, but he made money above the table. All right, so let's move down to the last one in the lottery. This is a player who I've seen all over the place. At least for me, you went from high to low to now I'm back high on him again, and it is Cole Anthony. So what are your thoughts on Cole Anthony?
I think I started out pretty low on Cole Anthony, but I've sort of been warming up to him over the last couple of months. I think the main thing with him is that he's sort of like Maxey, like Hampton. He's a dog. He's competitive. I think he could really surprise. He could be like a dark horse, like rookie of the year if he lands in the right spot where they need a point guard. Like I think he could go as high as 8 to the Knicks. But I think the thing with him is like he can shoot off the dribble. That's big. He can finish pretty decently. He's also sort of like a sneaky athlete. He'll get up there. And I think his competitiveness could definitely play well on defense when he's on a team that like isn't literally just himself trying to create everything.
Yep.
And I think I don't know how good his like playmaking and passing is because you didn't see a lot of that. But I think he's probably a little better than what he was at UNC because they really did not have the talent to stack up with his type of game.
Yep.
So I think that's why I warmed him up, and he's sort of in the lottery for me now.
Well, I know one thing for sure. Whoever is posting these videos of him guarding Kevin Porter Jr. at Chris Brickley's workouts, they need to stop posting them. He looks bad. I mean, Kevin Porter is a special talent. I'm really high on Kevin Porter Jr. From a talent standpoint.
I was pissed that Warriors didn't take him in the end of the first round last year.
Yeah, send him in. Yeah, I mean, it would have been a perfect situation for him.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it would have been a perfect situation for him, especially because they were bad. He would have had a chance to really just, get a lot of playing time and develop. And then, if Warriors were healthy, if you had Clay and Steph and all those guys playing this year, I think that he could have learned playing for Santa Cruz. But anyway, yeah, I've just seen videos of Kevin Porter Jr. just toying with Cole Anthony in these workouts. And I'm like, why are you putting that out, especially, during the draft? Put it out after he's drafted. But, yeah, I mean, I like Cole Anthony. Like he's back. I'm back high on him again. I did a deeper dive and realized, like, the reason why the finishing numbers were bad because he was driving in a congested lane. I don't think that he's an NBA floor general, but I think that he's someone that if he goes to like Washington or Phoenix or even New Orleans, even though they already have too many guards in New Orleans anyway, but you bring him in as an instant offense guy off the bench in a Phoenix and Washington, and you let him do what he does best, which his biggest strength is scoring the ball. And then you slowly allow him to develop into a point guard. But even if he doesn't, I think that he's a good enough shooter off the ball that if you have a guy that can be the main ball handler, I think that he can play with a dominant ball handler. And I saw one mock where he fell to Dallas. And I thought, like, dang, that would be a pretty good pick because he could come in for Dallas and, you may bring him off the bench, but Luka, they complement each other, like he could play off Luka. He gives them an aggressive driver, slasher, someone that can get their own basket. Cause I feel like that's one of the things Dallas is lacking is another guard that can just go get you a bucket. It seems like Luka had to create everything. So that would be a good fit. I don't know if he falls that far, but it's one of those things that I would kind of like to see. But Phoenix to me would be my Phoenix or Washington would be my top choices for him.
I think he could probably go as high as the Knicks if they fall in love with him. I think so they really want and need a point guard. Like,
and that's why I don't know, because is he a point guard? Like, does he feel their need for, a floor general? I mean, I think the Knicks are a situation that a lot of people like, and this is just my opinion, but I think the Knicks are a situation that people are bringing up because, one, he has ties to the area. His dad was a Knick, and that most obvious need for a point guard. But I don't know if he, if you go into the season with Dennis Smith, Frank, and what's the guy's name? Alfred Payton, if they're all there, and then you bring him there, I don't know if he comes out on top because he's not really a point guard in my opinion. And so to me, that would be kind of tricky.
I feel like if he performed better at UNC, he could have had a shot at like going to like Charlotte and being maybe decent there, playing off of Devontae Graham.
Yeah, and Rozier. So yeah, it's his range is all over the place, but I think he could end up falling in the draft, but actually falling to a really good situation.
Yeah,
where he can go to a team that's competing for a playoff spot and have a role in their rotation on a good team, as opposed to giving the keys to a really bad team where I think some of his bad habits could really be intensified.
I feel like he'd be a good fit in Miami too. I initially, on older versions of my big board, I had him more in like the late teens, early 20s. I feel like Miami would also be a pretty good fit. Like,
yeah, he fits their
sort of
competitive. Yeah, and he fits their competitive, fire that of guys that they like to see. So I wouldn't be mad at that. Well, thanks again, man, for coming on. I appreciate it. With Natan Johnson-Potter, he gave his big board top 14, and we are out.